Chapter 16. Sibling Rivalry. Jake sneaks out of the abandoned home and does his best to avoid the police patrols in the area. He finds it impossible seeing a heavily manned and armed barricade blocking the street ahead. Damn it, Jake thinks in frustration. We're blocked again. Inyana must still be in this area or their blockade would not be still intact. As if hearing the teen's thoughts, the barricade explodes violently, throwing officers in every direction like minor debris. Flames spew from patrol cars and black smoke fills the air. Inyana strides through the carnage with elegant confidence, ignoring the bodies around her writhing in pain. My patience has run its course, Inyana says. After waiting so long for this moment, I cannot stand to hide and allow the opportunity to slip through my fingers. More police approach them from down the street and begin to open fire. Inyana scowls with irritation, raising a hand to end their lives. Disappear, pests, she growls, focusing her energy into her hand. No! Jake tackles Inyana, driving them through the wall of the nearest building. Inyana tosses the teen off her with ease and stands, brushing the dirt off her clothing. You have only delayed their deaths. Soon I shall sweep over this world and end them all. I've heard this one before, Jake says, trying to put aside the fact that his opponent is wearing the visage of his mother. Try as he might, he cannot disregard this and shakes with turmoil. What my brother has failed to do, I shall accomplish with ease, Inyana boasts. I do not share the same weaknesses as he. Jake's entire body is paralyzed as the form of his mother blocks him. Despite every alarm for self-preservation sounding in unison in its head, he cannot will himself to move. The implications are too severe for the teen to comprehend anything else. Inyana has possessed his mother, and she intends to kill him. Facing me is unwise, son, Inyana says mockingly. In truth, Jake knows that it's not his mother that speaks, that instead it is at the manipulation of the Sakari creature, Inyana, that each action is taken or word is uttered. I thought you were smarter than to stay in this area knowing I was looking for you. The spirit of Ymura within Jake seizes him by the shoulders, trying to shake him out of his stupor. You must move! My sister is far too deadly to face here. There are few things that the former general of Central Averno's army fears, but it's obvious that the strength of his elder sister is one. 10,000 years earlier he betrayed her and allowed the human sages to seal her away so that he would not have to face her himself directly. With no one else around, the fear of what Inyana is capable of fills him with dread. She has control of your mother's body. Do you not recall how much stronger I was without your hindrance? While fighting against each other for control, we will not stand a chance against her. Ymura adds, begging for Jake to relinquish full control to him. Inyana, in the guise of Anne Stewart, steps forward and raises her right arm quickly as she whispers a simple yet powerful incantation, drawing upon the element of air and forcing it into submission. A rush of wind slams into Jake's chest and propels him backward. The teen slams into a shelf, collapsing to the floor among shattered jars and bottles. Blood mixes with the newly freed juices and preservatives, creating a pink, milky cloud on the floor that spreads outwards to touch Inyana's feet. Dazed, Jake is barely able to lift his eyes, even as he hears the incantation repeated distinctly. Garuda Nastra, Inyana casually says, manipulating the air beneath Jake and lifting him upward. Fists composed of rapidly spinning winds begin to attack the teen from all angles, blooding his face and weakening him more with each blow. Jake's ability to maintain control over Ymura's spirit slackens with his injuries, and the Sakari slips his own influence into majority quickly. Bringing 2 fingers up to his lips, Ymura expels a plume of flame outward, drawing the oxygen in the air towards it. The offensive winds are pulled into the flames and vanish in a single ball of fire that dissipates quickly into millions of tiny red embers. Ymura drops to the floor in a crouch, panting heavily. Strings of dark blood hang from his lips, and his growling reveals his Sakari fangs. Jake's hair is darkened at the tips with an oily sheen, and his muscle tone has shifted to become accustomed to the larger size of his spiritual passenger. Fire magic? Inyana smiles, surprised. Well, hello, little brother. Yamura glares with hatred. His eyes have turned red, yet Jake's pupils have not vanished, as the switch between their spirits is only partial. Sensing the presence of water within the building's pipes, Inyana draws the elements of air and water together into a geyser beneath Yamura. The steam and pressure behind it knocks the Sakari back through the windows and into the street, where he is temporarily blinded. He staggers, flailing while trying to regain both his senses and his balance. "You've focused too much on physical combat, brother," Inyana mocks, all traces of Anne's voice now faded. "You never did make any true effort to strengthen the skills of your spellcraft." Most practicing magical arts are able to only focus on one or two specific skill sets, due to the rigorous training required to master even a single incantation. A handful of magicians, however, are so naturally talented that they have mastery of a wide range of abilities. Yamura's offensive magic solely consists of a handful of fire-based attacks, while Inyana has mastery of each of the elements of nature and can manipulate them with chilling precision. Yamura's vision begins to clear, and the blurry image of Inyana appears before him, delicately stepping over the broken glass of the windows and into the street. He rushes his sister with a frenzy of slashes from his elongated claws, but she manipulates the air beneath her in order to glide upon it with a speed many times greater than would be possible if propelled by muscle alone. Unable to come even remotely close to landing a single strike, Yamura admits to himself shamefully that she is correct. Had he devoted a fraction of his training to magic that he did to physical combat, he would not be made to look the pathetic fool he currently is. Inyana treats her owning of the proud warrior as a game, reveling in his humiliation and the quickly fading confidence of one in whom there was never a lack thereof. "Do not give up yet, little brother," Inyana laughs as Yamura pauses to catch his breath, while she continues to dart around him with the speed and grace of the wind itself. Sweat rolls down his face and neck, and his chest heaves up and down with effort. "There is so much more pain that I wish to share with you." She knocks him to his back with a gust of wind. "Because of you, I did not get to see the majority of the lives of my own offspring." Inyana sharpens the wind into an edge before bringing it down across Yamura's chest. Blood explodes outward, and he drops to his hands and knees. "You robbed me of all the joy of their lives and accomplishments. You took from me the things most precious to me. It would have been better to have died by your hand that day than to live on knowing what it was that you took from me." Yamura's thoughts drift to memories of his father. Shamash was a proud warrior and skilled leader. He was able to bring years of peace through as many negotiations as through shows of force. He was both feared and respected. He was everything to his son. Yamura understands his sister's pain in losing a loved one, but he cannot give her the revenge she so desperately seeks. He must survive. Narain, Averno, 10,000 years ago. The youngest son and middle child of Inyana and Marduk, Salah, repeats a series of drills as his uncle looks on. Blue-skinned, but tinged with just a hint of the reddish-orange coloration of his father, Salah still resembles Yamura enough to be mistaken for his own son. Named after the closing blessing uttered after each prayer to their god Saint, Salah is groomed by each of his parents for separate aspects of the same future. Inyana teaches her three children the ways of the faith and the fundamentals of magic, while Marduk instructs them on courtly affairs and matters of ruling a kingdom. It's not often that any of them are able to slip off with their busy schedules to find time for their own interests. In Salah's case, it is to train in self-defense with his uncle Yamura. Salah throws several precise roundhouse kicks before pivoting with a series of alternating head and middle-level jabs. He continues this dance of striking and pivoting in perpetual motion. In the youngster's movements, Yamura can clearly see the grace inherited by his mother. Despite hating Inyana, Yamura does respect many traits that his sister possesses. She is both the most intelligent and cunning figure that he's ever met. Behind her red eyes, he knows that gears are constantly turning for plots and preparations, far ahead of that moment, perhaps even by years. Inyana also has the grace and poise of the finest priestesses, the ones who dance before the altar of Nyarlathotep, and moan ecstatic prayers to him while undulating about. Ymura has never been one for dance nor prayer. Inyana hurries down the polished stone floor of the hallway to catch up with her mate, King Marduk. A lavender and teal cloak flows behind her, waving as she runs. Several guards escorting the king tense at the sound of rapid movement and turn to face the potential threat. Seeing that it's only the queen, the guards ease off their weapons and stand aside to give the royal couple a moment of privacy. "Is something the matter, my queen?" Marduk asks. Concern paints his face. Despite all of the responsibilities of being the ruler, any ill news causes him to fear for the safety of his offspring first and foremost. Are the young ones safe? Inyana nods, still consumed by news of dire consequence. "It is my brother." "Ymura?" Marduk wonders with disdain. He grinds his teeth together at the mere thought of the general. What has he done this time? Hui believes him to be mounting forces for an insurrection. Many of the troops are loyal to him. His prowess in combat on the battlefield has earned him their respect and admiration. He is nothing more than a weapon. He is our dog of war. What could he ever hope to achieve? Many of the kingdom believe him to be the true heir of our father's throne, not you. They would fight to have him supplant you, my king. You are the eldest. It is your birthright to become the ruler. Do not pretend to be ignorant of our ways. You know as well as I do that you have assumed the leadership of this kingdom, not I. The citizens of Averno are no fools either. They see you as a power-hungry usurper and a coward, who could not face the king in combat, so you had him murdered. By a Yazata, no less. Marduk backhands his mate in anger, drawing a line of blood from her nostrils, but she does not flinch. Have I said something untrue, my king? She asks, mocking him. Perhaps I was indisposed when you challenged my father and bested him in a duel, as is laid out by tradition. Shut up, Marduk growls. I will not tolerate being spoken to in such a disrespectful manner, not by you especially. Inyana leans in close, whispering into her mate's ear. Do not presume to threaten me. We both know who would emerge victorious in such a confrontation. Marduk expels a puff of air from his nose in irritation and looks away. Then what is it that you propose we do to curb your sibling's popularity? I believe we have allowed Ymura's usefulness on the battlefield to cloud our better judgment. We should have eliminated the threat that he poses to us long ago. The Yazata made it abundantly clear that we are not to harm your brother. An accident in battle, perhaps? Replace soldiers that he trusts with loyal ones to the Grand General and allow Hui to execute him when he believes the time is right. Unless the Yazata are spying on every single thing that we do, they will be none the wiser. Marduk frowns. You place a lot of faith in Hui's abilities. The two of them were more or less equals in strength the last time I checked. Hui will come up with something to give himself the edge, of that I am certain. He is very resourceful. You disappoint me, brother, Inyana taunts, standing atop the wreckage of an office building she's brought down upon Ymura only moments before. Everyone in Averno feared you. The stories of your strength were commonplace. To think that after all this time, I could have killed you at any moment with ease. Ymura lifts a slab of concrete from his back and slowly stands. Blood covers the Sicarii, but he remains defiant against his sister. I am not dead yet. Perhaps you should try harder. Inyana frowns, raising her hand towards her brother. You are a pest. It was only by the grace of the Yazata that you were not put down immediately after our father was overthrown. Rage burns brightly in Ymura's eyes. The night that you and Marduk killed our father, you mean? Inyana shrugs. It does not matter whose hands the blood is on. Father needed to go regardless. He stood in the way of progress. His disgusting alliances prevented the expansion of our empire. He kept peace. That is a concept I have not seen since before that day. Marduk craved only war when he was too weak and cowardly to pick up a sword himself. Because of you, I was unable to witness the world that my mate was creating. You stole that life from me. I stole your life. You had my father assassinated, pushed me into the military where my spirit and optimism were crushed, and because of your scheming, my mate was murdered. You're still hung up on that little bitch. She was nothing special, brother. I would have thought you moved on long ago. Moved on? A day does not pass that I do not think of her. The thousands of years I was within that damned amulet, my thoughts of her were second only to my revenge against Enkidu and his descendants. And I thought only of my hatred for you. You and Eliel did not have any offspring. You did not have as much to lose as I. Salah, Edior, Mizrain, you stole their lives from me. They were surely better off without your poison in their lives. Inyana hisses, picking up a piece of broken rebar and surrounding with violently spinning winds. We settle this now. No more posturing. No more stalling. You will die, and there is nothing you can do to prevent this. Yamura picks up a splinter of wood and focuses his energy through the object until it becomes the handle for a fiery black sword. Inyana launches herself at him, bringing her cyclone weapon against him. The rapidly spinning winds lash at Yamura, drawing fresh bleeding cuts on his arms as he strains to hold them at bay with his own weapon. Inyana grins, removing one hand from her weapon and pushing Yamura back with a pulse of energy. With the force of a wrecking ball to the face, Yamura bounces off the rubble and rolls across the ruined street. Inyana comes down on him with a downward thrust, but he manages to grab her wrists and hook a leg to throw her over. Inyana tosses her weight forward to right herself and grins. You need to put up a better fight, brother. I nearly got you there. Yamura stands, rubbing his sore jaw. She is toying with us. She is not even using her magic to its fullest, and yet she has us at her mercy. If she's holding back, maybe we can make her regret being so cocky. Yamura's aura erupts into the black flame. His eyes shine with focus and rage. The Sakari sets his feet in preparation. Good! Inyana smiles, baring her fangs with anticipation. Make this satisfying. I would be disappointed if this continued so lopsided. Pushing off the street, Yamura leaps forward to meet his sibling in combat. A sonic boom erupts as the ground beneath him is displaced into a crater. Yamura brings his fiery weapon to bear against Inyana, who meets him with her own. The collision of their weapons sounds loudly, and the force clears all of the debris from around them in a large circle. Yamura looks down, noticing that the flames of his weapon have been extinguished. Inyana smiles, thrusting her palm out to strike her brother in the chest. Blood explodes from Yamura's mouth as he is sent crashing through one of the downed buildings. Do not give up on me yet, brother. I wish to savor this victory. That didn't go very well, Jake says as Yamura crawls free of the wreckage. You got any more tricks up your sleeve? You know better than to ask me such a foolish question. I'm intelligent enough to know not to toy with a being as strong as my sister. If I possessed a technique that I believed I could defeat her, I would have used it by now. Do you have enough energy for another dragon attack? It did not work before. It should not work at a weaker strength. But that was against a Yazata. She can't be as strong as Cedrion, can she? What if you took some of my energy? Would that be enough? Yamura pauses, thinking of the possibility. I would require almost all of your energy just to reach the strength of my previous attempt. Jake takes a deep breath and holds his hands out. Yamura tilts his head in confusion, trying to understand the gesture. I guess you need to take it all then. When I wake up, you better have won. Yamura struggles to find the words, having not expected such an act from the boy. You do not fear what I shall do with this freedom? I do, but we both have a lot more to fear from Inyana. I can't stop her, but maybe like this, I can still be of help to you. Stupid boy. Yamura sighs, taking Jake's hands into his own. The teen smiles until his image suddenly becomes a blinding white light. The light is then absorbed into Yamura's avatar, filling him with renewed strength. The Sakari feels electrified, gaining more power than he expected. Yamura exits the ruined building. The black flame aura flickers violently around his body. Sparkles of blue electricity leap from his aura in sporadic bursts. Inyana grins as she watches her brother once again emerge to continue their battle. She is delighted that he refuses to give up. That is the way, brother. It is not in our blood to give up. I would not feel as satisfied if this were so easily finished. Basia, Voven! Yamura screams, releasing his aura in the form of a massive black dragon at Inyana. Blue sparks of Jake's energy leap from the dragon as it speeds towards its target. Yamura dives forward, outrunning his dragon and appearing at Inyana's side. The Sakari Queen glances down in surprise, her eyes widening in astonishment. How? She shrieks in alarm at her brother's boosted speed. She brings her wind sword around to attack, but her eyes catch the approaching dragon in her periphery. Yamura delivers an uppercut to Inyana's sternum. He feels bones give under his fist. Blue electricity dances off his arm as his muscles flex and bulge. Inyana's mouth drops open, expelling both the air in her lungs and the contents of her stomach. The black flame dragon roars as it collides into Inyana's back, consuming her in a fiery inferno. Yamura leaps away, watching as the blast expands and disintegrates the earth below. His chest heaves and his adrenaline continues to rage. He has never before felt such a powerful surge of energy flowing through him before, and wishes for the sensation to never pass. The flames suddenly cease as if banished by a magical force. Inyana crawls from the newly formed crater, hissing and cursing with a furious rage. Hatred burns in her eyes. The Sakari's clothes are tatters and her skin is covered with patches of light char. A single stream of blood runs down from her mouth and runs along the curves of her neck and chest. I do not know how you managed to become stronger, but that was not enough to get the job done. Inyana wipes away the blood and smiles. That was your last chance. I will no longer hold back. I will finish this with my full power. Farewell, brother. Inyana summons the elements of earth and spirit, raising the debris around them into dozens of mindless golems. When you cross the river and reach hell, pay your respects to Father for me. Yamura growls, launching himself forward into the midst of the conjured beasts. His claws flashing with blue energy, the Sakari is able to cut through Inyana's creations in seconds, much to her surprise. I see that you have not yet burned out, she comments. No matter. I have many other ways in which to take your life. Yamura throws a right hook that Inyana ducks beneath and delivers a combo of jabs to the ribs. He pivots, trying to swipe downwards, but Inyana sweeps his legs and drives an elbow into the bridge of his nose. Blood explodes from Yamura's face as he rolls aside and back up to his feet. Holding his nose, Yamura concentrates on trying to apply pressure and stop the bleeding. Inyana rushes, striking with lightning-fast punches. Yamura is unable to defend, reacting half a step behind his sister each time. He staggers from the blows, trying futilely to counterattack. Inyana slaps his attacks aside as soon as each is launched, following up with a counterblow for every one of them. Dropping to a knee, Yamura's head swims with waves of nausea and fireworks of pain. Inyana plants him flat on the ground with a crescent kick. A mist of blood sprays from his face as he collapses. He tries to stand, but Inyana kicks him a second time. You are struggling to keep up, brother, Inyana taunts. Have you really become this soft, or were you always that way? Yamura condenses his energy into a black sword as he runs towards Inyana. He slashes horizontally, the force and his excess energy cutting through the buildings behind Inyana. Inyana, however, merely grins. She holds Yamura's sword with one hand, keeping it from making contact. Yamura raises his other hand, firing a Basaiya blast into Inyana's face. The Sakari Queen is propelled through a tall office building, bringing it down atop her. Screaming civilians run past Yamura in all directions, trying to flee the carnage. Inyana explodes from the rubble, surrounded by wind magic. Growling with anger, Inyana speeds towards her brother and strikes him with both hands in an X to the collar, sending Yamura crashing back through several homes. Yamura crawls from the debris, holding his right arm in pain. Blood runs down the arm and drips from his fingertips. I know you still have fight left in you, Inyana says. Entertain me a bit more before I finish you off and end this game. This is no game, Inyana, Ymir growls, and there is no turning back. One of us dies today. Inyana grins. I am glad that you understand the ramifications of standing against me. I will do to you today what I should have done the day that father died. Instead of listening to the Yazata, I should have killed you myself right then and there. The Yazata, Ymir whispers. They did not want you to kill me? Inyana nods. I do not know why Cedrion has such an interest in you. You never amounted to anything great. Your only glories came from serving in my army. Without me, you are absolutely nothing. Even then, the Yazata were manipulating us, Ymir thinks in frustration. We must survive this battle so that I can finally make those Yazata pay. Inyana rushes towards Ymir, coming at him with a rising claw slash. Ymir twists to the side, narrowly evading the blow and making it cause only grazing damage. Blood is flung from Inyana's fingertips, and Ymir immediately conjures another black sword and attempts to stab his sister through the gut. Inyana hops backwards in evasion, and Ymir quickly fires several energy blasts with his free hand. Inyana hops and flips as she maneuvers further back, dodging each attack. Ymir rushes in with a horizontal sword slash, but Inyana blocks with her palm. The two siblings struggle against each other, shaking as neither gives ground to the other. Inyana suddenly grins, overwhelming Ymir and grabbing him by the throat with her other hand. Inyana charges forward, carrying her brother by the throat as she runs through the windows of a nearby store. Inyana does not slow, driving Ymir back through glass windows, wooden tables, and counters, before running him through another set of windows on the other side of the building. As the two lose their balance, Inyana manages to tackle her brother against a brick wall. Ymir screams out in pain as the deep crack snakes up the wall and rains bits of rock down on them. Inyana laughs, enjoying the screams of her brother. Continue singing like that for me, brother, Inyana grins, madness in her eyes. I have so longed to hear this song. Ymir drives to stab his sword through Inyana's torso while she has him pinned, but his sister easily grabs his wrist with her free hand and squeezes, causing him to drop the blade. Inyana lifts her brother and pivots, slamming him to his back onto the concrete. A deep crater swells out around Ymir's form on impact as he expels a mouthful of blood and saliva. Ymir's eyes bulge and he gasps for air. The pain is overwhelming and he cannot think of countering or attacking, thinking only of the pain. I do not know why, but I expected you to be much more challenging of an opponent. I have thought of nothing but this battle for millennia, and now that the moment has arrived, I am disappointed in your performance, Inyana says mockingly. Ymir channels energy into his left hand, but Inyana kicks his arm and causes his focus to slip and the energy to dissipate. She stomps on his fingers, resulting in a deafening scream. I overestimated your skill, or perhaps I just remembered it wrong after all of these years, Inyana says, picking Ymir up by his hair. I thought for sure you would have put up a much better fight than this. Ymir reaches up, prying at her fingers. Inyana punches him several times in the chest with her other hand. Consciousness slipping, Ymir's hair lightens and his claws and teeth recede back to human form. Inyana envelops her free hand in rapidly spinning winds, which she narrows into a fine point. Hey! A voice shouts from behind. Inyana turns, meeting a cloud of dust as it is blown into her face. Jake is released, collapsing to the ground. Inyana howls, her eyes burning with pain. Gerald helps his grandson to his feet and tries to put some distance between them and the furious Sakari Queen, as she claws at her eyes, unable to remove the particles of dust that feel like shards of glass rolling around. It wasn't hard to find the two of you, Gerald says. You've torn the city to pieces. Grandpa? Jake cannot believe that his grandfather has shown up to save him. He thought for sure that he was still in Clear Springs. What are you doing here? Gerald smiles. Isn't it obvious? He looks over towards Inyana as she thrashes madly. I'm here to rip that monster out of your mother's body and send it straight to hell. Silver Foxjet en route to Indiana. Gator sits in his seat, twirling his recently collected diamond-bladed sword. the only weapons known to be capable of cutting through Yazatan armor. He is aware of how rare his trophy is, and proud of it despite the lives that were lost in its collection. Are you positive we cannot convince you to stay on even as an advisor? Leinster asks, handing Gator a drink. Gator studies the drink before taking it. A few sniffs and a slight taste, and he recognizes the beverage as whiskey. Didn't I tell you that if you asked me again I would break your jaw? Gator asks, consuming half the contents of the glass. I might recall something of that sort, Leinster sighs, sitting down across the aisle from him. You proved to us just how much we need operators with your experience on board. The guys that finished the mission with me have gained more experience in the last 24 hours than most men do in their entire lives. Keep them active and don't let them rust. I wish I could keep them on the shelf and give them some rest, but we're so hard-pressed. While we were busy with the Yazata, the world did not slow down with its craziness. We've got creatures of all kinds popping up like weeds across the globe. Have you run across the name Yamura before? Gator asks, finishing his drink. It is his hope that with the resources of Silver Fox, he can gain a clue to the troubles occurring within his own family. Yamura? Not offhand, but I can run it by Mulder. Why do you ask? My nephew. He became possessed by something calling itself by that name. I've run into devils before, but in his presence he didn't feel like anything I've ever sensed. A really strong and dark power, but very foreign. He took out an entire police force before my son and one of his classmates that knows magic managed to take him down. Leinster nods, calling the Arizona base. He relays Gator's information to Mulder and waits. The Yamura? Are you serious? Mulder replies on the other end of the call, excited. He's one of the only monsters that has his own occult fan club. You know of him? Leinster asks, putting the call on speaker. Well, yeah. He was a really brutal warrior in his day. He slaughtered people like it was going out of style. In his day? What do you mean? I mean that he's been on ice for 10,000 years. His followers have been popping up from time to time, trying to resurrect him, or something, but they always fail and the cult fades back into obscurity. What is he? Some higher class of devil we've never run into before? Leinster asks. He's surprised that this is the first time he has ever heard of Yamura, if the being is such a celebrity in the monster world. He isn't a devil at all. They call themselves the Sicarii. They staged an invasion on this world 10,000 years ago in the Middle East. Only a few of them survived when humans proved to be too much for them to handle. Yamura wasn't among those survivors. The Sicarii that did live became the playthings for power-hungry and depraved rulers. They used their blood to create the first enhanced human warriors. How bad would it be if Yamura were to come back? Gator asks. Yamura would make your last mission look like a training exercise. At his full strength, he was a beast. I wouldn't say that we'd stand zero chance, though. The Sicarii are strong, but they have all the same weaknesses as humans. They need to breathe and eat, and they bleed and die. Now, if his sister were revived, we would be in trouble. His sister? Gator's voice rises with obvious concern that gives even Leinster pause. The director notices Gator's unease, which makes him doubly frightened. If the toughest soldier to ever come through the ranks of Silver Fox is scared, what is really loose out there? Her name was Inyana, and she was light years beyond Yamura in every category. In an RPG, Yamura would be your starting character with base stats and level 1. Inyana would be your level 100 end-of-the-game boss. She was a wicked sorceress and had a genius level of intellect. Her only flaw was her arrogance. Lucky for humanity, the people of Katal'Ta'Kuk defeated her with Yamura's help. Yamura helped the humans? I don't understand, Gator whispers. He's more confused now than ever. Make no mistake, Yamura was not an ally of humanity. He saw the invasion as an opportunity to assassinate his sister. I guess there was no love lost between the two of them. Katal'Ta'Kuk's protector and Keto, with the magicians from all over the region, teamed up to seal away all three of the Sicarii's biggest powerhouses. So who was the third? Gator's stomach becomes upset, learning more bad news than good about Yamura and regretting he ever asked about the matter. Inyana's top general, his name was Hui. He was stronger than Yamura, but not as strong as Inyana. We're lucky all three of them are gone. Put a contingency plan into effect immediately. Divert all of our active resources into locating the final resting places of where the Sicarii known as Inyana and Hui are sealed, Leinster shouts to Mulder, nearly causing the man to fall backwards into his computers. Sir, what's happening? Wait, why only locate 2 of them? Mulder pauses, answering his own question. Oh damn, he whispers. Mulder, Yamura is already back in play. He's in possession of Gator's nephew, Jake. The sound of a keyboard being assaulted is all they can hear for a minute. I'm so stupid, Mulder chastises himself. This makes so much sense. I can't believe I never bothered trying to tie it all together. I even read those witness statements. It's all right there. Gator becomes angry, looking to Leinster for answers. Witness statements. You already knew about Jake's problems? We were aware that your nephew was wanted in connection to multiple murders. He became an active case once his involvement in the disappearance of the citizens of Clavemont, Georgia was suspected. Gator balls his fist tightly. An active case? You mean you were going to hunt him down with one of your teams and didn't even think to tell me? Leinster nods. All signs pointed to him being a monster of some sort. I'm embarrassed that we could not ascertain which variety without your input. You can't go after Jake. My nephew's soul is still in there. We stand a better chance at neutralizing his threat without his death than the police. With your aid, we may be able to bring him in alive and extract the spirit of Yamura from him. Damn it! This doesn't feel right at all. Mulder, pull everything you can on the other Sicarii and implement it to fill in the holes within our own investigation of Jake Stewart. The sooner we act, the more likely it is we can get to him before the police do. With all the damage he's done, the police will not think twice at putting him down for good. Gator punches his seat, cursing to himself. Looks like you get your way after all. Where is Jake now? Leinster asks. We lost his trail after Clavemont, Mulder replies, still typing feverishly. You keep mentioning that town. What did he have to do with it? Gator asks. The police definitely have him in their sights for the disappearances, but we have already been investigating Conco for years before Jake ever arrived on the scene. Antonio Khan is into all kinds of shady research and surrounds himself with parasitically enhanced warriors. He also has ties to the Doctor, Leinster adds, knowing the name will catch Gator's attention. No way, the soldier whispers. That's impossible. I killed the Doctor in South America back in '88. Your granddad was there. He saw it. This Doctor is a disciple of the one you eliminated. He is every bit as deranged and creative. I would say that as soon as he learned about Jake, he wanted his hands on the boy. Bad memories fill Gator's mind. Memories of hot jungles and human grotesqueries. Horrors of body mutilations and modifications flash in his brain. And blood. Lots of blood. Did Jake take out Conco and the Doctor, or did they blow their labs to destroy their research? Gator asks. Impossible to say. All we know is that it's pure scorched earth. Clavemont is desolate, with no trail of where everyone went. We got a few sightings of school buses leaving the town, but we were unable to track them for long. The only witnesses were from a football team from Barrington, the next town over. They described Jake when telling who it was that saved them from the so-called mutants. They also mentioned people being loaded onto buses. With all of that, I would say that your nephew was trying to do the right thing in Clavemont. Conco has other facilities. Have you checked into them to see if they're hiding the whereabouts of the missing townspeople? Gator asks, his brain beginning to switch into problem-solving mode. Unfortunately, manpower has been too low. We've had to keep this on the back burner with the Yazata assaulting Arctic and Finnick teams taking priority. One of Khan's facilities went dark only days after Clavemont fell. We assume Jake had involvement. No one in the public has seen Antonio Khan since the explosion of his Atlanta facility. It's rumored that he was killed in the accident. What about the Doctor? Did we get lucky enough to have him in the right place at the right time? Leinster frowns, shaking his head. The Doctor is still very much active. I'm afraid it will fall upon us to remedy that situation. Gator nods, sighing loudly. Looks like I'm going to lose my job. I don't have the vacation time on the books for a prolonged stay in Arizona. Your compensation will be taken care of. No need to concern yourself with that. At this time, we have far more money than we have men in the field. Let me get some things from home and tell my family what's going on. Then we can turn this jet around. Leinster merely nods, satisfied, and begins reading files on the Sicari emailed to him by Mulder to his handheld computer. Gator tosses his head back against the seat, cursing his own luck. How did I fall back into this game?